So by far we have covered almost the basics part of this JavaScript, and now we have reached to the next stage where we will be learning the most important concept called loops. As a developer, you can't imagine programming without loops. So let's get started with the for loop first. Hey coders, this is Neha from Webstack. Welcome to another episode on this JavaScript series. So if you are new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. So now talking about loops in JavaScript, it is the same thing as we do in C, C++, or Java. So if you are a developer and you know all these stuff, so you might feel a little bored at the beginning, but I promise you, you will learn a lot more in this video. So if you see this MDN documentation, you can check out that we have different loops inside JavaScript. So we will be looking at like in this series in continuation with another topics as well. So as you can see here, the for loop contains three expressions. We all know this: initial expression, condition, and then we have some increment and decrement statements. And after that, we have some statements which gets executed, and you can check out this documentation for some beautiful examples. So let's move to our VS Code and see how we can do for loops. So to create a for loop, we simply need to write this for, and if you check out these suggestions, you can simply find a dummy skeleton for loop. So I'll just click on this for and you can see I got this. But I'll not be using this at the very first place because I want you guys to learn this first. So I'll just hard code it by myself. So let's write a variable here, and we usually write the variable name inside the loops as I, J or K. So I will be using here I, and then I'll initialize it with 0. If you do so, then it will also work, but actually we will be providing conditions because I don't want it to be an infinite loop. So if I write here I less than, let's say 5, and then I write I plus plus, you can increment it by 1. So I'm writing this plus plus. If you want to increment it like this, I is equal to I plus 5, then also it will work correctly. But right now I'm just incrementing it like this by 1, and after that inside it you can write any statement that you want to print. So I will simply write here my, and then actually I want to print whether it is my first statement, 0th statement, and so on. So I can write here plus I, and then I can simply give here statement with space like this, and there we go. So here you can see in the console it is printing my 0 statement, 1 statement, 2, 3 and 4. But one point to note here, it is not printing my 5 statement. That is because when your I is incremented to, like in the loops, it will be incremented by 1. So it increments 0, first it will take 0, then 1, then 2, and then 3 and then 4. So next time when it increments it to 5, actually it will check this condition I less than 5, and 5 is obviously not less than 5. That is why it just gets exited from this loop and it doesn't print my 5 statement. So you must have seen we can implement the patterns, we can just print these kind of statements, but by doing that we can never ever learn this for loop, because in your projects and in your applications you are never going to implement these kind of stuff. So now we will look into a more real example which we are going to use in our various projects or in our various to-do tasks. So let's say I have an array here. So I'll create a simple array. I'll create const, and then you can simply write animals, and let's try to have some animals name here. Let's say cat, we have dog, and then we have something called bird. Okay, I can write here fish or something, and then I have, let's say I have giraffe. One more, name here with 2 letters only. So we have ox. So these are the animals that I have written in this array. So let's create a for loop and create some variable inside it which actually start with 0. So indexes inside array, they are always starting with 0 only. And then we will just loop this array till the last element inside it. So we don't know how many elements are there. Yes, we know it right now. But let's say if I add one more element, then it will be quite difficult if I write the value here. So instead of that, I want to make it dynamic, and to make it dynamic, we can just use some properties that are there in the array. So I'll just write array names, and then I can use a property called length. So it will actually check the length of the array and it will execute till I is less than the length because we are starting with 0. So now I will increment it with 1 and here we go. So this is my for loop and inside it I'm going to print the values of all the animals that I have. So I'll simply write console.log, and you already know that to print or to access the values inside array, we simply write the array name and then we provide the index like 0, 1, 2 or any index you want. So for the time being, I want to write it as I, and you can see in the console that we are getting cat, dog, bird and all the animals that I have listed here. But I don't want to print the animals with 2 letters, or let's say with not less than 4 letters. So how are we going to do that? So for that, I'll simply write a if statement here, and inside if I can just compare this element by writing it like animals of I, and if animals of I dot length is less than, let's say 4, so it should actually not print that, but it should actually break and should start the loop again. So we have to write here continue. So continue simply means that the length of that name, if it is less than 4, then just skip this and just go on to the next iteration of the loop. That is the actual meaning of continue. But if I write break here, then it will break the loop and it will move outside the loop. So if you write anything outside the loop, let's try this out once. So now you can see it is printing outside loop, but if I actually write here break, so nothing gets printed and only this outside loop will get printed. Now let me take one more example here so that things will be more clear and you will be getting more insight into this for loop. So let's say I'm writing some numbers here by mistake. Oops. And I'm also writing some boolean values like false, and then I have also included some true value. So these are kind of mixed things that I have added here. So what I want to do now is I only want to get the string names and not these numbers or these boolean values. So you can pause the video here and try to do this on your own, and then you can come back and watch the solution. So now to solve it, what you can do is you can simply just remove this if statement, and I'll write here a condition which will actually check the type of my array element. So let's say the array element is animals of I, and I want to check the type of this. For that, we will be using the operator. Absolutely correct. That is type of. So if the type of animal, if it is equals to, or you can also write triple equals to if you want. So if the type of animals is equals to string, so I will simply just console.log this, and let's say I will write animals of I. So if I print it, oops, okay, I need to provide here string in quotes, and now you can see we are only getting the strings, that is the animal names. And it might happen that some of you have given a different approach here, so you can also do it with some modifications, like you can do it with if I write not equals to. If it is not equals to string, then I want it should continue. So it will directly go to the next iteration. So that means it will skip all the values which are there, which are not equal to string. So if I save it, again I'm getting the same value. Let's say I want to print only numbers. So I'll write here, if it is not equals to number, then you can see here we are getting 5 and 6. So this is actually the project level implementations that you will be using in your various applications. That's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please give a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and share so that we can reach our first 500 subscribers. So we'll see you in the next video.